Thank you. Maybe, I'm sure we're going to do this on the floor today, but maybe because even though he was oversight, he was close to this committee as well. Maybe let's just all stand in for a brief moment of silence in remembrance of Mr. Conley. Thank you. Pursuant to notice, I call up H.R. 1163, the Prove It Act of 2025 for purposes of markup, and move that the committee report it favorably to the House. The clerk will report the bill.
H.R. 1163.
Without objection, the bill will be considered as read and open for amendment at any point. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from Virginia, Mr. Klein, for an opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. H.R. 1163, the Prove It Act of 2025, will help small businesses around the country comply with the overwhelming weight of federal regulation. This bill is an important piece of legislation and should not be controversial. It's intended to ensure that agencies comply with existing law and better account for how the regulations may affect small businesses. Small businesses around the country are struggling to comply with the onslaught of new regulations that are enacted each year by federal agencies. Many small business owners are their own compliance officers. They often don't have the resources to hire lawyers and compliance professionals to help them stay on the right side of the law. Many regulations have a significant economic impact on small businesses, which result in higher prices at the cash register and higher inflation. In some cases, small businesses never open their doors in the first place because of a mountain of regulation. And this harms all Americans through reduced competition and innovation in our economy. This is especially true when agencies enact poorly designed, one-size-fits-all rules. When small businesses must comply with such rules, it doesn't just hurt their bottom line, it also means the American people pay higher prices. Under the Regulatory Flexibility Act, agencies are supposed to take small business into consideration when crafting regulations. All too often, though, agencies do not comply with the RFA's mandates. One report found that in 75% of rulemakings, the agencies either ignored costs on small businesses or underestimated the regulation's costs. That is unacceptable. Regardless of whether some believe that the U.S. economy would be better with more or less regulation, we should all be in favor of well-crafted regulation. We should also agree that when Congress passes a law requiring an agency to complete a task, the agency should complete that task. It's not that hard. H.R. 1163, the Prove It Act of 2025, would help ensure agencies more carefully craft the regulations as the law requires. It allows small businesses to petition the Small Business Administration to investigate whether an agency performed the analysis the RFA requires, and it also creates a penalty for agencies that fail to comply. Mr. Chairman, Congress passed the RFA over 40 years ago, yet federal agencies still fail to account for the effects of their regulations on small businesses. The Prove It Act of 2025 is certainly necessary, and I urge my colleagues to support it, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The ranking member, Mr. Raskin, is recognized for an opening statement.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. I want to thank Mr. Klein for the initiative he's taken with the Prove It Act. It may be sleep deprivation on my part, Mr. Chairman, but it seems like a kind of whimsical idea to me. Right now, we've got the Regulatory Flexibility Act, which, as I understand it, means that that parties to a regulatory notice and comment period and filings and so on have to already do the analysis of what the potential effect is on small business. And this was adopted back in 1980. And I think it's been working really well. Now, as I understand the gentleman's bill, the objective is to further support small businesses by requiring that every rule that the government proposes in every agency and department must go through one small office in the Small Business Administration. And again, we've been up most of the night in the Rules Committee, so I might be reading it wrongly, but it seems to me that the chief counsel of the Small Business Administration would suddenly achieve a kind of veto power over every rule proposed by every agency in the federal government, whether we're talking about the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, the EPA, the Securities and Exchange Commission, the Federal Election Commission, and so on. So, and if we were going to do that, I'm not sure this is the office we would choose necessarily, the office of the chief counsel of the SBA. The Senate has not even bothered to confirm a chief counsel of the SBA in a decade. I'm not quite sure about the logic of this. The Regulatory Flexibility Act already introduces the substantive consideration of, how regulations are going to affect small business, but this seems to be giving them almost like a veto power over it, and the logic of that would be, well, then, the EPA should have veto power to examine the environmental consequences, and then, we've got to give it to the Securities and Exchange Commission to make sure that it's consistent with business, big business interests and so on. And so I think that segments and chops up the regulatory process. It's not necessary to do that, and certainly we haven't shown the necessity of it. And I guess I would just say finally that this administration has sworn its opposition to regulations. I think they're saying they're going to either get rid of 4 regulations for every 1 new regulation, or maybe get rid of 1 regulation for every 4 new regulations. I can't remember which way, but in any event, they're already working to chop down regulations, and so this would be a time to see how that goes without altering the entire the APA process. So, thank you, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Without objection, all other opening statements will be included in the record. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from Virginia for the purpose of offering an amendment in the nature of a substitute.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have an amendment at the desk.
Clerk will report.
Amendment in the nature of a substitute.
Without objection, the amendment in the nature of substitute will be considered as read and shall be considered as base text. For the purpose of amendment, the chair recognizes the gentleman from Virginia to explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This amendment strikes "of 2025" from the title of the bill. The change is not intended in any way to alter the important purpose of the bill. I urge support for the amendment and yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Who seeks recognition? Gentleman from New York is recognized.
I move to strike the last word.
Gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, the Prove It Act is yet another example of Republicans pretending to care about small businesses while actually furthering the interest of big corporations. This legislation represents the latest effort by Republicans to dismantle the regulatory process, giving the biggest companies a powerful new cudgel to wield against regulations and causing harm to the very small entities it purports to help. Our regulatory agencies are responsible for writing rules that protect our communities from harm. They make sure that the toys our children play with are safe. They make sure that the vehicles we drive and the buildings we live in are up to code. They make sure that the legislation we pass in Congress, tackling issues like climate change and public health, are implemented as we intend. But the Prove It Act would grind all of this to a halt. If this legislation is enacted, every single rule, past, present, and future, would be funneled for review through a single official in a chronically underfunded office within the Small Business Administration. Any group that merely purports to represent small businesses could petition this one official to block a pending rule they don't like, and there would be no limit to how many times they could do this. Rules that would ban toxic chemicals or take contaminated food out of the market would hang in limbo, while petitions mount before this single official to complete their reviews, if they can ever complete them all. And who would be charged with this awesome responsibility over a regulatory system? It's unclear, since the SBA has not even filled this position since 2017. But President Trump has nominated someone to fill the post, someone who has questioned limits on polluters, rules that prevent insurance companies from discriminating against people with pre-existing conditions, and the value of sick leave. Because of these views, the nominee was opposed by every Democratic member of the Senate Small Business Committee, and I hope he will be rejected by the full Senate. And in addition to charging the Chief Counsel with reviewing petitions related to new rules, the bill also charges him with tracking agencies' completion of a mandatory review of existing rules every 10 years. If they find that an agency failed to conduct the required review of a rule, they can simply suspend operation of the rule. This is a recipe for chaos and dysfunction. And that, of course, is the point. And with the Trump nominee at the helm, scores of rules that businesses oppose, but that ensure we are safe, could be on the chopping block. Republicans do not want to empower the agencies that ensure the drugs we take are safe, that ensure child car seats protect the most vulnerable among us, and that enforce our competition laws to ensure that small businesses have a chance to thrive. They want to throw sand in the gears of these agencies to ensure that they never issue the regulations we depend on to keep us safe. This bill will do little to help small businesses, but for powerful companies and special interests, it could prove to be a windfall. I urge my colleagues to join me in opposing this bill. And I
Will the gentleman yield for 1 sec?
I yield to the gentleman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nadler. And the mystery behind this bill is clearing itself up a little bit in my mind. Apparently, the gentleman that you spoke of who was nominated to be chief counsel of the SBA is a well-known anti-regulatory ideologue who has written advancing his theory that America essentially took a wrong turn with the New Deal and the Roosevelt administration. He opposes the minimum wage. He opposes fines for polluters. He opposes sick leave for employees, mandatory sick leave. He believes Congress should repeal the ACA and certainly undo protections for patients with pre-existing conditions. He blamed the 2008 mortgage crisis on unemployment insurance and so on. So he seems like he's got a touch of Ayn Rand in him. But I certainly wouldn't want to turn the whole Administrative Procedure Act over to this one guy. And I thank you for yielding.
Reclaiming my time, I certainly agree with that and point out that under this, he could reject the rule. If the rule is repromulgated, reject it again and again and again, and you set up, what this bill does is set up a minor official as the total dictator over every government agency, an unreviewable dictatorship, unreviewable discretion with all of our lives and safety. It's a terrible idea, and I urge my colleagues to oppose the bill, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Virginia is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move to strike last word.
Gentleman is recognized.
I would argue that the claim that the Prove It Act gives the SBA too much power is a misguided one. For starters, the Prove It Act does not authorize the SBA to review the substantive policy of any regulation. Instead, it's designed to ensure that agencies are complying with the RFA when crafting those regulations. The only power it gives the SBA is to determine whether the agency has complied with existing law. And if the agency has complied with the RFA, then the regulation will apply to small businesses as normal. But if it hasn't complied with what Congress requires, I thought that's what we were all interested in right now, is ensuring that when Congress passes a law, that it is followed by whatever agency it is directed at. But if the agency hasn't complied with what Congress requires, then the agency will need to show its work. It's not complicated, and the SBA will not be authorized to determine whether the regulation should go into effect on policy grounds. So I would just respond to that and hope my colleagues will support the bill.
Gentleman yields back. Seeks recognition. Question occurs on adoption of the amendment in the nature of a substitute. This will be followed immediately by a vote on reporting the bill. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no.
No.
In the opinion of the chairs, the ayes have it, and the amendment in the nature of a substitute is adopted. The question is on favorably reporting the bill as amended. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no.
No.
The ayes have it, and the bill is ordered to be reported favorably to the House. Members,
We have a recorded vote, Mr. Chairman.
the ranking member requests a recorded vote. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Jordan?
Yes.
Mr. Jordan votes yes. Mr. Issa? Mr. Biggs? Mr. McClintock? Mr. Tiffany? Mr. Massey? Mr. Roy? Mr. Fitzgerald? Mr. Fitzgerald votes aye. Mr. Klein? Mr. Klein votes aye. Mr. Gooden? Mr. Van Drew?
Where's everyone?
Mr. Nels? Mr. Moore? Mr. Moore votes yes. Mr. Kiley? Ms. Hageman? Ms. Lee? Mr. Hunt? Mr. Fry? Mr. Grothman? Mr. Knott? Mr. Knott votes aye. Mr. Harris? Mr. Onder? Mr. Schmidt? Mr. Gill? Mr. Baumgardner? Mr. Raskin? Mr. Raskin votes no. Mr. Nadler? Mr. Nadler votes no. Ms. Lofgren? Ms. Lofgren votes no. Mr. Cohen? Mr. Johnson? Mr. Swalwell? Mr. Liu? Ms. Jayapal? Ms. Jayapal votes no. Mr. Correa? Mr. Correa votes no. Ms. Scanlon? Mr. Neguse? Ms. McBath? Ms. Ross? Ms. Ross votes no. Ms. Ballant? Ms. Ballant votes no. Mr. Garcia? Ms. Kamlager-Dove? Mr. Moskowitz? Mr. Goldman? Ms. Crockett? Mr. Gooden votes yes. Mr. McClintock votes aye. Mr. Garcia, you're not recorded. Mr. Garcia votes no. Mr. Johnson, you're not recorded. Mr. Johnson votes no. Mr. Cohen, you're not recorded. Mr. Cohen votes no. Mr. Swallow, you're not recorded. Goldman. Mr. Goldman votes no.
Yes.
Mr. Issa votes yes. Ms. Kamlager-Dove, you're not recorded. Ms. Kamlager-Dove votes no. Mr. Harris, you're not recorded. Mr. Harris votes yes. Mr. Onder, you're not recorded. Mr. Onder votes yes. Mr. Nels votes yes. Mr. Tiffany votes aye. Mr. Massey? Mr. Massey votes aye.
Clerk will report. Gentlelady from Wyoming.
Ms. Hageman votes yes. 14, 12, 14, 12. Mr. Chairman, there are 14 ayes and 12 noes.
The ayes have it, and the bill is ordered to be reported favorably to the House. Members will have 2 days to submit views. Without objection, the bill will be reported as a single amendment in the nature of a substitute incorporating all adopted amendments, and staff is authorized to make technical and conforming changes.